Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. All right, looks like everything's working correctly here. Give me 2 seconds. All right. There we go. All right. Wonderful. Got that all set up now. Got that little issue taken care of. There we go. Should be good to go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Give everyone a few more seconds to trickle in, thanks to my my awesomeness of not updating the link, but updating the password. That worked out great. Anyway, before we jump on in, as always, on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the Live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and read through that, understand everything that is inside there. Just a quick note before we jump on in. Keep in mind that the YouTube broadcast does have between like a 5 and 30 second delay-ish, so depending on where you're logging in from, that can definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at any given moment. Also, just want to take a second to give a quick shout out to the latest members that joined overnight, last night, this morning, etc. Thank you so much for the support. I'm pumped to have you on the SSFTG family. If you aren't a member yet, you have a few different options available to you to check out if you're looking to further your trading education, your trading career, or if you're just looking for some cool folks to hang out with in a chat room. Here on YouTube, you can check out the join button below the stream. The YouTube family gains access to the extended hours trading room, which continues the morning session from 10 until whenever we end the day. Along with that, every member gains permanent access to the Discord chat server, and of course, you get the awesome badge next to your name here on YouTube to show your support. To understand what it is that we're doing every day in the room, look no further than the Day Trading Academy. This is a heavyweight 19-plus hour course and study guide, material, homework, review, all kinds of stuff. You're talking a heavyweight video-guided full academy approach. So you best tuck in if you're going to be looking to go that route for the DTA. And then, of course, finally, the big kahuna, VIPs. VIPs have exclusive access, permanent access, to our non-delayed stream covering the entire morning room from 9 until whenever we close the room to ensure that you're on the fastest connection possible and so you don't miss any beats along the way. Alongside that, of course, you also have access as VIPs to monthly webinars, private events, one-on-one scheduling access, all kinds of cool stuff. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're a seasoned VIP veteran over on the Zoom stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside with me today, ending up the week of Quad Witching Week on a Friday. It should be fun. Let's have to be a little bit more careful today with that in mind. But let's take a look at some news, take a look at some charts, see what's going on today so we can better prepare ourselves. Don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you this morning on the major 7 markets that we take a look at. And if we go a little bit further down, as far as the news calendar is concerned, we don't really have too much, honestly. The news calendar is kind of light and quiet today. The first announcement that we have is the U.S. Baker Hughes oil rig count at 1 o'clock. After that, it's all medium announcements, CFTC speculative net position stuff, nothing major. So as far as the news is concerned, not much. Pretty calm and quiet. So with that in mind, let's jump over to the 15-minute and start there and kind of see what's going on from this perspective. One of the big things that stands out, obviously, we've got a little bit of a dive back down here, but the market was working its way up with a fairly solid trend to the upside. Notably, the highs seem like we had a bit of a megaphone back here. And it kind of crept in a little bit. And if we go across the highs, we kind of had that same mentality of another megaphone off of the highs, which, again, missed the top. Same thing that happened over here. And the last time that it missed the top, they did pull back. And they pulled back pretty aggressively and then rifled back up above that POC, and that was a failure. If we look at the more recent price action of what has happened on this current move, if we go from the bottom to the high that was formed up there, that gives us our POC smack at the top. So if sellers are looking to sell this market to the downside and they're looking to try to maintain this pressure lower and get things going, realistically, they're in a favorable location. They have everything in their favor. They're short with a POC way above the market. The market's pulling back aggressively. There's no POCs down here to hold it up unless we go backward a little bit, go from the top to the bottom side and see if there's anything down there. Awesome. Buggy data. That helps. Let's go a little further forward. And the POC is at 14,060, which is exactly where we are. Again, if you remember, we were talking about that level yesterday. It broke out, came right back to it. Yeah, guess where it is again? Well, we're bouncing a little bit, but a lot of times after we have that bounce and continuation with a failure, I'm not really expecting it to hold as much this time around. I mean, it might, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be the highest on my list, that's for sure. Well, we'll see what they're able to do, but that top-weighted POC makes it a little bit tough. Over on the full-size S&P, we've got the back off down to the lows of the range. I mean, the thing with the S&P that we've got going on here is that it's still stuck in the range. All the other markets are pulling back really aggressively, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a really strong drive to the downside. But structurally, where are we? You know, we're still inside this giant range. We haven't even really broken underneath the lows being 41.70 to 75. If anything, we're kind of bouncing off of that at a negative 2 DP. So all of this momentum that we've got going on right now kind of leads me to believe that maybe wedge low buyers are buying down here. This makes a lot more sense from a bullish perspective than it does a bearish perspective, at least as far as the S&P is concerned. That said, it is incredibly early. We're talking, you know, right at the bottom of the wedge. It's only had one bounce off of the wedge. By no means is this a proven area, but given the way that it looks pretty good to me. A lot of buyers will be looking to try to ping this back to the upside, get back up towards the highs of that wedge next. Over on gold, we did have that dive down to 1775. That was the area that we were talking about yesterday, and to say that that worked out well would be a drastic understatement. Incredible bounce off 1775 with a massive rally all the way back up almost to 1800 before seeing it flush back down towards settlement. This is a higher low potential, and if we look at the move from top to bottom here, awesome, buggy data here as well. Cool. Let's go a little further forward. Not enough. All right, geez, finally. So we've got the POC, which is way down at the bottom, and a little bit of a cause for concern here. If the buyers were going to be taking it, this gigantic red bar back below that break-even point, that's a pretty big problem. That's a big red flag right there, and a lot of traders are going to be slightly concerned about that, especially if we start coming back up to that 1784 area and treating it as resistance. That makes it even harder. So the bulls were trying, but now that they've slipped back underneath that POC like that, that's tough. That's real tough to want to stay long with that kind of movement. On crude, we are seeing the pullback a little bit further, and this is what we've been waiting for ages. If we go all the way down at the lows, we haven't had any pullback other than an L1, and we finally have a little bit deeper, but guess what? Still an L1. The overall movement that we've got going on the crude oil market is incredibly bullish, and every single pullback that we've had so far has been an L1, including the one that we are on right now, as insane as that feels. The L2 doesn't happen until 69, a little bit above 69. So, I mean, it's still an L1. It's ridiculous. Unbelievable how this thing's moving. If we have the overall move, we know what's going on from yesterday. We've got the 1 to 1.5. We're looking for a 1 move down, and that parks it smack on top of that L2. That zone becomes a massive zone of interest. Let's see if we can get that. That was the 1.5. The box starts here and goes down to there. That's the hot spot. See if gold or crude oil can back off down to those low 69s. On the euro, this thing just keeps getting pummeled. They lost the 1.2. I mean, that's a huge problem in and of itself. Losing a gigantic psychological level like that is I mean, man, there's not many easier ways to put a nail in a coffin than that, you know? And, well, that's exactly what they did. They pounded through that 1.2, didn't even look back. With that, to be said, you know, the 1.2, whenever we have a big psychological break of a level, the market usually likes coming back and retesting it. Inefficiencies, you know. But as it stands, this is incredibly bearish to the downside, and it just keeps going down. There's no reason to do anything other than sell and keep selling. Over on the crypto space, mostly sideways still, kind of grinding back a little bit. I mean, we've been talking about that pullback to 37,000. We just tapped that 37K. We're back into that previous zone of congestion where we had previous interest. We haven't really seen higher highs, higher lows, but, well, this is the starting point, at least, going sideways. It's very early in the party, though. We haven't seen any proof that the bulls have taken over. Same goes for Ethereum. They're grinding down towards the lows, and if anything, I mean, what stands out blatantly obvious, 3-press wedge low, which is way the heck down there. That would be down in the 2100s. We'll see, but crypto's not looking so great right now. It's in a little bit of a bind. Looking at the NASDAQ, starting off on the daily and working our way forward from there. Like we had seen and had talked about several times before about that repetitious patterning, we had the giant bear bar, and the follow-through was bearish. The concern was that we were going to have several more days of sideways to potentially down, which could cause that giant rip to the lows. Unless they grind their way back up to the high, which is what they did. Now that we've had that cycle back up to the highs, you'd think they'd be really bullish, right? Like, yes, they made it back up finally. The problem is, every time that that's happened historically, where we have a really strong bear bar off of the highs with a bull bar that goes back up, we get stuck there for like 2 weeks. So, I mean, that kind of sucks, given the fact that that's what just happened. I don't want to get stuck here for another 2 weeks. And I mean, to add to that emphasis, we've got 14,000 right there. I mean, if we're trying to add a reasoning as to why it might get stuck there, that adds a lot to it. And seeing that congestion with 14,000 in the all-time, I mean, ugh. So there's a pretty good likelihood that we end up getting stuck here for a while now that this is moving the way that it did. A little bit of a bummer, but we are still above the POC at 649. If the market wants to pull back down, we've got that as a zone of interest. Looking back from the area that we were talking about as far as projections to the upside, if you remember, we were talking in the 400s. We still have a ways to go. That line is still there, the 420s. Got a bit more to go if it wants to keep pushing, but right now, looking a little tough. Over on the 60-minute chart, very nice big flush to the downside. And if we look at this in the 15-minute, might give us a cleaner idea here. But if we go from the POC value and look at where the market is currently, we have a POC that is still top-weighted up here, even including some of that bottom price action. So there's nothing saying that it has to stop down here. Anything else that we might be able to utilize as support? Let's see here. The 60s. Yeah, the only other thing... oh, man. The only other thing is 13,800. Just saying. That might be interesting. Well, looking at the Asian to Euro session, they're basically stacked on top of one another, but since then, pretty obvious as to what has happened so far. Pretty strong bear drive to the downside. Attempted to get that sink back to the lows, but remember what they hit, 1460s. With that much support coming off of it, I have to assume that they're at least trying to bounce it a little bit. See what they're able to accomplish here. And here it sits. As far as zones of interest on the bigger perspective, like from a swing perspective, I just don't think we really have much to work with. This price action that's been kind of floating around inside here is nasty, to say the least. Just can't get a trend to to get going. Having some real problems. As far as the S&P is concerned in the pre-market, if we pull up the 2000 just to get an idea as to where that is, we had that big cycle off the -2 DP. From a probabilistic standpoint, it's incredibly high probability from long-term statistics that the market closes above this green line. It's very high probability that the market closes above this red line. It's moderate probability that it closes above the orange. Anything underneath that just becomes higher and higher probability. But that does not mean that it has to, right? There's a big difference between the probability of it happening and the actuality of it happening, right? Context is everything. At the moment, though, it's looking pretty good. Bull bar attempting to climb back to the upside again, although not really achieving a ton. All right. Still potentially trying to pull back a little bit. We've got some back and forth play going on. 49.50 is the current developing POC of the bulls attempting to get this going. They've obviously got some problems, but 12, 13 minutes or so until the open. We've got some time yet. Keep in mind, as a, just as an out there note, it is quad witching and it's Friday of quad witching. If you are looking for one of potentially the best and or the worst days to trade, this is it. Just throwing it out there. Some of the biggest moves, if you're on the right side of it, will happen today. Some of the biggest moves, if you're on the wrong side of it, will happen today. The market doesn't care about your feelings, so make sure that you trade cautiously. That's the best way to put it, all right? Quad witching is a day that historically, just to put into perspective, 4 or 5 years ago, I wouldn't trade the entire quad witching week. Like, I would just be gone. I'm not interested. It's gotten better, obviously, now that more people have access to trading accounts and everything is a little bit more fast. But still, danger, Will Robinson. I'm going to be looking more on the scalp side today. And with that said, on the swing side, if swings do end up setting up, might still be a little bit more aggressive on the management of them just to ensure the highest probability that we can get. I'm expecting volatility to be very high today. Volume, actually not too bad. 111,000. It's not terrible. And then just as a side note for everyone, we have been having some wicked lightning thunderstorm stuff going on here. The power has already flicked like 2 or 3 times this morning. The generators are doing their job. But just as an FYI, if the power does cut, I'll try to. I've got a few minutes of uptime, so I'll try to let you guys know if the power cuts. Be like, hey, I got to duck out. I got 2 minutes before everything disappears. Just a heads up, Market's just a grinding. Man, what are these candles that are going? Look at all these wicks. Got a massive pocket of wicks going on at 89.50. Could be those buyers still trying to pick off that POC, but at the same time, if those buyers fail, that's a lot of people that are going to have to jump ship. Or at least a lot of volume that's going to have to jump ship. The yellow line that you see on the chart there, that is the negative half DP. You can see it a little bit better from the 15-minute chart. That dashed line is settlement. So the probability of bouncing off 80, I mean, it's there, but the likelihood that it closes above or below is not enough for me to care about it. Breaking back underneath the POC, the bulls are going to hate every ounce of that. I don't think the market really knows what it wants to do here yet. In the bigger picture, how do you feel about Bitcoin? From the bigger picture, you talking like hourly, 4 hour? 4 hour, even daily? I don't know if I'd go out to a daily, but if we look at a 4 hour, you can see what's going on. We've got the bottom weighted POC. The bulls are making their attempt. We've broken above it. This returned back to 36, 37,000. That's why this is the hot spot. But if that doesn't hold, well, then things get a little bit tricky. So I'm still bullish on crypto. I still like Bitcoin around the 37,000 mark. I think that's where the BTFD buyers are going to be hanging out. The biggest dip would be down at 31.5. If it starts breaking below like 27s, more than just like a flash crash. I mean, we know how flash crashes operate in these markets. But if it starts maintaining pressure underneath like the 28s, 27s, there's problems. And then we could be looking for a significantly larger pullback, maybe down into to retest the 20, which still hasn't happened. So my outlook right now on crypto is probably not the healthiest, happiest thing in the world, if you're already long, but I got to see what the chart tells me, not what I want to see. Doesn't look good right now. I'd rather buy or wait and buy the dip. How often does quad witching occur? As the name would imply, thankfully enough, quad witching only happens 4 times a year. It happens quarterly, which is where the name comes from. Quad witching, its name is derived from 4 asset classes expiring at the same time. Quadruple witching. Without quad witching, it's normally just triple witching, which is basically every 3rd Friday of every month. That happens all the time. You've probably traded through hundreds of them and not even know it. Triple witchings really don't matter that much. It's the quad witchings that are really weird, because now you've got the futures asset classes, the options, you've got all of them expiring the same week. So they have that week or the week before to really kind of disperse, reaccumulate, distribute, do whatever they need to do before that rollover, and they can't do anything else. Luckily, it's only 4 times a year on every 3rd Friday of the quarter. So, being that this is month 6, and we are the 3rd Friday of the month, the 18th, this is quad witching number 2. Then September will be the next one, and December will be the one after that. That was a heck of a bull bar that just snapped back to the upside, and I have to assume that sellers just got flushed a little bit there. We slipped back underneath the POC, it retested for break evens, we slid back down again, really strong bear bar, 0 follow through. I have to assume that sellers are massively trapped right now going into the open, but the open is the problem. We've got the open right around the corner, which makes things just a little awkward. See if bulls can snap up underneath that previous bull bar, the 90s. See if they can snap it back up for a nice little scalpable opportunity. Nice. Quick little scalp. That flushed a little bit farther than I thought it was, and I didn't get the fill on the second bid. Already, all right? Use that last trade as an example of how today is operating. Do you see how weird that trade felt? Buying into it on the bid, I got filled higher than I wanted to. Hit the ask, got filled a little bit lower than I wanted it to. That's the market that we're dealing with right now. Okay? Get comfortable with it because it's not going anywhere. Early in, early out. 9:30 around the corner. At the moment, the S&P is, I mean, way down there. Snapping back to 89, retesting. 928 is the next big batch. I'll try to highlight the scalp areas ahead of time as much as possible because I know today is going to be moving very, very quickly. It is what it is. Let's go back from the lows. Okay, well, obviously, 70 is going to be a zone of interest down in that retest. This lower high here, though, we might pierce underneath it. Starting to get a little bit of a dive back down again. If sellers did reverse short there, realistically, their objectives based off of a 2-to-1 would be right down where I'm looking to enter. So that's perfect. $9.30 right around the corner here in about a minute. Whew, that bear bar closed right back down. Come on, market. Which way we want to go? Buyers may be losing their grip underneath the 89s, but 70s would be next. And the 60s. I mean, I can't forget about the 60s. All right, 9:30 around the corner. Sellers are trying to get that POC shift to the downside. Talk about terrible timing for a setup. Yikes. Well, I mean, it might go down, but there's not really anything I can do about that. S&P is opening outside gap down. Lordy. Nice jump to the upside. Big bullish rally higher here off of those 14.060s. That increases a lot of odds for the bulls to try to get the next snap down. But remember what we're doing right now. This thing is down through the floor. So be very careful buying too aggressively. Remember, this is scalp territory. Difficult day today. I can't say it enough. I'll probably say it another 15 or 20 times. Little snap back into the 8s, 7s, 8s maybe. Nice little pullback there. Snap right back up into the target. Got a terrible fill on the ask, but name of the game. Jeez. Woo! Holy crap. Snap down, bounced right out of that zone. Holy... Woo! All right, hit the gas pedal. Nitrous is to the floor. Let's go. Jeez, oh Pete's. All right, sell side drive back to the downside. Next zone of interest is going to be in the 60s. Careful, though. They might slide that base. They already tried sliding the low, and 60's not been the best area in the world. Sliding underneath 75 will be another zone of resistance to potentially push back off of those 75s. We're down in this... I missed my opportunity. I missed it. I thought it was going to poke down to like 55. Nice attempt from the sellers to try to drive the market back down again. Beautiful scalp opportunity, although the first portion would be basically break even or a small loss. Wasn't able to follow through on that follow-through move there, though, so we'll see if the sellers want to jump ship and start rotating back up or how they want to play this. Whew, golly gee willikers. All right, bears attempting to slide back down through the lows here. We've got a big old bear bar. 79.75 POC up at the top. Sellers continuing back down again. So that 75 area did end up holding with a twin reversal. See if they can jump up and give sellers a better fill here. Beautiful fill. There it is. Golly geez. Whoo, lordy. All right. Next breakdown, 51's the low. See if they want to keep this thing churning. Maybe a poke into the mid 60, 61, 62s would be all right. POC bottom shifting now. A lot of profit taking going on through the lows. Hang on to your lug nuts, man. We got a day. We got a day in front of us here. See if they can poke into the 60s. I was just going to say I didn't get a fill. I almost hit cancel. And then I ended up getting a fill. All right. I am going to jump ship on that at break even, though, because that did not fill the way I wanted. And I missed my entry on that snap higher. Jeez. Okay. Next zone of interest. I'm going to have to move fast. Going to be up here. 85s to 90s. Gas pedal is to the floor right now. I'm gonna shy away from the first test here. It missed it by a little bit. Yeah. I was gonna say, so what happened here is it popped up and it missed it by just a tick. And then kind of pulled off and then shot through. It's usually a clue that it's gonna break through that zone. Ay. All right, bulls are back in charge, trying to rip this thing back to the upside. A little snap down in the 101s, maybe? This volatility is absolutely absurd. There's the little snapback. Quick little dive here. I'm going to look to reduce off of that quick little snap higher, just around that break-even point to reduce my risk. Didn't get a fill on that bid flush. Naturally. This area seems like it's losing a lot of ground. I'm going to switch directions and look for a failure move back down. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense that the bulls are starting to lose hope a little bit here. That's too many. I mean, it's like 5 bear bars back to back. The bulls are going to have to show up better than this. Imagine trying to buy that pullback and then this happens. It's just like, bleh. first 5-minute bar in the S&P is basically non-issue. The first 5 on the NASDAQ, that gives us a POC smack at the top, 41.10. Big dive to the downside. I'm looking for sellers to reject back off of this move and flush back to the lows. Or maybe not necessarily back to the lows, but for another press back down. All right. Didn't quite get the scalp that I wanted there, and now reversing back up again. Bulls attempting to steal this away. Whoa! Ooh, that bear bar, though. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute now. See if sellers can get a quick little snap to retest again. The bulls, that looks like that might have been their last dive. Beautiful flush back down off that quick little pop. God. All right. This volatility is unreal. Yeah. More bearishness starting to cycle back to the downside. Realistically, with this amount of movement, I have to assume that we've got to look at both sides, the bulls and the bears. Starting from the impulse leg at the bottom to the impulse leg from bottom to top, top to bottom. 14,100. Bulls sparking a move back up very aggressively. Snap down maybe to the 90s. You might find some flush buyers trying to pick it back up. It flushed too far. I'm going to jump ship just above break even. Of course, that means it's probably going to jump like 7 million ticks, but we know what kind of day we're dealing with. This is not a day that I'm going to hold out on patience. Give it more time is not a motto today. Holding that 14,100 is a massive problem for the bulls. See if they can get a little bit of a pop into like the 85s maybe. I mean, more than like a millisecond though. Nice little snap up. There we go. Big jump to the upside. I'm going to look to jump ship on that and just accept the fact that that's going to be a loss. I'm not getting out of that one. Again, patience is not the game today. This will rip your face off and cover the what's left with spit. Like, it doesn't care. See if you can get a little bit of a volatility press outside of this sideways chop that's going on. Whew. Okay. That 14,100 is a big, big brick wall. Inside bull bar, maybe trying to get the bulls to get something going, but bull engulfing candle now. Okay, well maybe. Still nothing. Hit 14,100, immediately rejected it. Sellers have some pretty good continuation down. We're still getting stuck on this half DP, though. 87s, 88s would be halfway decent. Huge move. More continuation to the upside. Rip, and now we're starting to break away a little bit. We've broken back above the POC. See if they can get a little bit of a dive down here into the 96s, 97s. I mean... Okay. Fractions of a second to respond to that, but cool. I did not buy that pullback. It did go where I wanted it to, but I was not fast enough. Whoa, 14,110. Huge rejection off the top. Can they break above this 110? Very strong bull bar once again. They're trying. We are back to today's median price. If you were to measure from the top to the bottom, the median is 124.63. More bullish continuation. 116s maybe would be a nice little washout pullback area for buyers. Or not. S&P feels like it's done nothing. VWAP's there too? Okay, yeah. So we're on top of basically everything in the middle now. Give me a quick little flush down into those 20s like that. There we go. Nice snap for the buyers to snap it right back up again. Very nice. Big flush down. Be careful. This flush might have some more oomph to it down to those 95s. $100s to 95s becomes a zone of interest. That's a really nice bull bar to try to kick things off again. Bull engulfing. I don't really want to buy above it. Inside pullback wouldn't hurt my feelings, but... Sheesh. All right, there we go. Got a little bit more continuation. We got another bull bar further confirming. We got a couple more. All right. Back into like the 23s, 24s. For a washout would be halfway decent. Nice little washout move. Even further on the washout now. Going back into the 110s. I'm going to look to see if I can grab a little bit of a flush and draw my average down on this move. Beauty. All the way back up again. Effectively, between all of those, that trade ended up being break even, just so you know how that one worked out. The goal of that was effectively to mitigate risk. I was wrong on my entry, and it slid faster than I had a chance to respond to it, so I had to adjust. More continuation back to the upside. Good old hindsight, huh? They slid down to the zone, which is where I hit it the heavier again. But at that point, I had already had a fairly bad average, and I just had to get out. Nice bounce off the 110s with more continuation back to the upside. Vindictive SOB. We got that market again. Little flashback to the 20s. I don't know. Lower high, holding off those high closes. Bar 3, nice and strong on the S&P. Remember where we are. We're on top of the median. We've got the VWAP here. We've got all kinds of crap that's trying to push down, too. All right, now we got some consistency again, but we're back to the 5-minute POs. That cluster again at 110. There they go. What does the median mean? Like, if you were to measure from the very top to the very bottom of the day, 50%. The literal median. The don't fiddle in the middle median? Yep, that's the one. I believe on the NinjaTrader forums, there's an indicator that will plot the median for you. I don't know off the top of my head where it is, but if you search free NinjaTrader indicators, median, I'm sure it'll pop up. If you want to, but I mean, it's just a fib tool away. It's not like it's hard. More bullish continuation, attempting to break higher. I mean, at this point, who knows what this thing wants to do? It's going up, it's going down, it's trapping the lows, it's trapping the highs, it's ripping everyone's face off. EMA's converging here as well. So much middle ground. Big time. Literally as well, you know. I mean, this is becoming a mess. We got to get away from here. To me, you know, if it were me just using some common sense stuff, if I were coming in and we see this gargantuan gap down that I missed all of, and the market pulls back 50%, it's like a half off sale, you know? Like, I can sell here, risk 25% for a 50% return back to the lows, and bingo bango, you got your 2 to 1. Not a whole lot of thought involved. Come on, sellers, break on through here. Next zone is going to be down here, but honestly, they've hit it so many times now in these 95s to 100s that it's going to be really tough to want to see them bouncing in this area. They might have to dip a little further. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. My kids can't seem to find common ground today. Looking for this snap higher for sellers to regain control from the 60s to 70s for another drive lower. It's very likely that we do see a secondary leg to this. The question is where they're going to plot that secondary leg, whether they're going to do it on this lower, more aggressive stance, or if they're going to do it on a higher stance. Beautiful slide back down. There we go. We got another nice bear bar for sellers to try to take this lower. Well, maybe. That pulled back pretty quick, huh? All right, never mind. Give me a halfway decent bear bar for sellers to sell into again, and we'll have a shot. That's a lot of strength coming in. And by the time it happens, it's going to be down at the bottom, right? Yep. Go figure. Maybe a little snap into the 63s. Nah, it's too far down. They've already gotten the second leg. It's kind of game over now. Well, not game over, but it's going to be harder to sell this far down. Better off selling a higher price. Yeah, definitely not a problem. All right, Bears. They got a shot here. This is a nice sink back down. Unless the candle gets too freaking big again. All right. Oh, man, what a mess down here, huh? Going into 10 o'clock, right around the corner. Three press wedge top, maybe, for sellers to try to pressure back off of. Whoa, that was way up there. I guess that was one of those times where hitting ask actually helped me. I hit sell ask and it filled me way up at the top. I'm going to jump out of that immediately. Just as a side note, well, what I wanted to do was hit ask when it hit this blue line. I got filled up here. Thanks for the ask bump there. So when it jumped back down again, it's immediate exit. I got filled in a better place for once in my life. Bull's trying to get something going. I mean, chances are they're going to try to go back to 95, right? That was the previous POC. I hit ask. It had already rifled through. I didn't get filled on that one. And it had already jumped through 95, so... The reason to go short had completely failed by the time I hit ask, and it was fast enough to be able to hit cancel. Good. See if we can get a little bit of a pullback here now. 14,100s with this rifle to the upside. Those 110s. This is the POC of the 5-minute. So, not that the 5-minute really proved a whole lot. Little dip in the 104s, maybe? I would really like them to get above this 110. Got a few more minutes till we wrap it up and switch over to the extended session. Okay. How about 116? A little lower? Beautiful dip. Playing off this 110 area as a zone of interest. Next zone would be down in the 106s. Well, unless they just scream it back to the upside. I got top bid and didn't get filled, so I'm going to reduce that one just to save on the risk side of things, but I still like the long on this dip back. Whoo, lordy. Big flush. Beautiful snap back to the upside again. Going on 10 o'clock right around the corner here. Geez, that bear bar starting to pressure right back down again. Nice bull bar to try to get something going, maybe almost engulfing. 10 o'clock around the corner here. So before we get anything else going, let me switch over and we'll make the transition. Before we head off into the oh, hang on. That's a really nice bull bar. That was a terrible fill, though. I love this this long, and I don't want to get rid of this singular one because it hasn't given me a secondary. See if we can get this thing to snap. Average is down at the lows. While I'm waiting for this, while it's sitting here, let's switch over and we'll transition over into the extended session. So for the rest of you, it's been a heck of a week this week, and not an easy week by any means. A lot of traders, like I said at the beginning of the week, won't even trade this one. It's quad witching. It's tough. These weeks are inherently difficult. So. If you had a tough week this week, don't beat yourself up too much. I think it's fair. This is a very hard week to trade and learn from it. Use the information that you gather from this kind of week to better yourself as a trader. But if you have any questions that I might have missed, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll get those covered for you from there, jhb@ssftg. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Rest up, and we will see you all on Monday, all right? For the rest of you hanging out for the extended session, stay tuned, and we will switch over. So, enjoy, rest up, have a great weekend, and we will talk to the first portion of you all on Monday, all right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks. Bye.